Good afternoon. Welcome everyone. And welcome to the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. Sorry for the delayed start today. We have a few gremlins in the old technology. So I apologize for the audio this afternoon. We'll do our best to plow forward as we kick off at Naledi with some beautiful warthog. But yeah, good to be back with you all. Hope you all had a nice weekend. It was an extremely warm weekend down here in the Western Cape of South Africa, and I'm sure a lot of that warm weather will be heading up towards the bush in the next few days, where I'm sure temperatures will soar comfortably above 40 degrees Celsius. So pretty warm down here at the moment, but nice and green for the animals anyway. Why don't we go over to Tembe as we see our warthogs wander off into the long grass. See what we got on that side. And as always, we have the ever-present elephant bulls. Always nice to have them around. They were hiding away for a while, but nice to have them back again. As always, folks, we'll go through a couple of highlights during the show as well. And if you have any questions, anything on your mind that you'd like to talk to us about, any questions about the bush or the animals, please feel free to send those through. It's always fun for us to interact with you, so even if it's just to say hi and let us know where you're from. You see our elephant bull giving himself an amazing mud bath. I must say that would have been quite pleasant over the weekend here in Cape Town. A good old mud bath. As I said, it's getting pretty hot around these parts in the afternoons now. So it's likely we'll see a few more animals coming down in the mid-afternoon. Do feel free, as I said, to send those questions through. Always love chatting to you all. I know we have a very smart, highly intelligent viewing base. And as always, we try every week to give you a tricky question. This week, to make things a little easier for us, I'm going to go with an easy one. Today's question is, without cheating on Google, what is the average weight of an elephant bull? So how heavy do you think this chap is on screen now? So let me know your thoughts as we go through. I said a nice easy one this week. Try not to cheat online, otherwise it'll be very easy. And why don't we mix it up? Let's go with the average weight and also what's the heaviest elephant bull recorded? How about that? Heaviest elephant bull and the average weight of an African elephant bull. And you see that chap just leaving the water now, showing a bit of dominance over his younger colleague, also having a mud bath. And a quick hello to those of you out there. Kathy Prescott, welcome back. Lovely to have you with us. Patty Rayberg from Wisconsin, good morning to you, and good afternoon from us. OMG 23 back again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lovely to have you with us from a snowy Michigan, it sounds like. Well, I've seen snow about 4 times in my life, so I think that would be quite fun for me. But down here in Africa, certainly southern Africa, we don't see a lot of it. A few little pockets where we might get some snow, but certainly not in the bush areas where we are hanging out right now. Who else is out there? Kim Steele from Flon, Canada. Flon, Canada. Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining us. Deborah Andrews from the Mississippi. Welcome. Having a great time with our big old pachyderms. Having a mud bath in the afternoon. That one's having a good ear scratch, this fellow. Walking towards us. We're just exiting both sides of the screen at the moment. I just love watching the elephants, though. I always find them so interesting. They're so expressive. Especially when they walk like that, swinging the old trunk from side to side. And as they walk off, why don't we kick off our first highlight of the day on the theme of elephants. Let's go with the video that we got from beautiful Olifants River. And watch carefully in the river. Let's just see what happens here. As you can see, some very, very strong flow at the river at the moment. And though elephants are generally very good swimmers, for the youngsters, it's not that easy when you're crossing a really rapidly flowing river. You can hear all those grumbling noises that the herd are making as well, often a sign of distress, and it is a way of communicating between them. Just a moment of concern for the little one as they were swimming over. You can see a number of the females coming around that youngster to help it out. A really, really interesting video. You often don't expect that the herd will cross over the rivers when it is flowing so freely. And for that exact reason, because they struggle a little bit more to stay with the herd. But of course, using their trunks, they can really, if need be, head back and rescue that calf quite easily with a very powerful trunk. And as I said, elephants, adult elephants themselves swim really well. But an interesting little clip that we caught over the weekend. We're back live now, of course, at the beautiful Tau. And OMG23 mentioned that they think that the water level at Tau seems lower than last year around this time. And I think you're fairly on the ball there, OMG. We had some pretty good early rain at Tau, which filled things up nicely and of course has greened up the grass everywhere. But the water level itself in the dam not quite as high. Now it can be a number of factors. As I said, we did have early rain and we haven't had too much in the area of Tau recently. It could also be that many of these water holes are pumped. They have water that is pumped from underground into the little dam or pan. And perhaps the lodges decided because they had early rain, they weren't going to bother pumping too much water. So we'll have to keep an eye on things and how it goes over the next few months. As I said to you earlier in the show, I suspect we're going to get a lot more rain over the coming months. Generally now from late January, February is often considered the highest rainfall times for many of these areas. But of course that changes as climate does in many regions over time. So we'll just have to keep an eye on things. But for now, the water level in the little dam is not quite as high. It is beautifully green and of course a lot of grazing around for our large herbivores. As you can see here, our plains zebra and blue wildebeest in the background. And everything looking pretty peaceful at Tau as well. No lurking lions in the bushes right now. Speaking of lions, yes, things are pretty quiet. Let's go to our second highlight of the day. Just a little bit of interesting behavior from our Tembe lions. These are of course the sub-adults that we often see together. We have the missing other male, and you can see the two of them playing rather innocently together, which is pretty common for siblings at this age. That male, though, is getting to the age where it is soon going to be time for him to leave and move on to other parts of the reserve. And as you can see here, he's starting to get the scent of his female sister and to attempt mating, even though he really has no idea what he's up to at the moment, and his sister is in no way interested in that right now. But it is actually an interesting thing. She might also be starting to come into estrus for the first time, and that would be a very interesting and new smell for him. And it is part of the reason that around that age, about 2 years, 2.5 years old, sometimes even younger, around 18 months, particularly if the dominant male is present more often, well then that male would chase away these young sons. And it is of course a natural way to keep the bloodline strong, to keep the genetic pool with fresh impetus from other males coming into the territory. So yeah, don't be surprised if we see this young male chased off and separated from his sister. It is much more likely that she will stay with her mom. She's not on the scene right now. She's a little further away in the bush, but it's not unlikely that she will stay with mom and this young male will have to move on to other parts of the reserve. which of course is a very difficult time for a young male. They can often spend 2 to 3 years out there on their own. They have to fend for themselves. They do, of course, hunt and are very capable hunters if and when required. And often they'll spend that 2.5 years just honing their skills and trying to get as big and powerful as possible. Of course, a lot of that has to do with their genetics that they inherit from their mom and dad. And once they're big enough and powerful enough, they will then attempt to overthrow the dominant male from other prides, areas and territories that they've moved into. But a single male lion, it's often very difficult for them to take over a new pride, which is why we often get coalitions of males, which are normally related males from the same litter. So this fellow that we were watching and his brother, though we haven't seen him for a while, would likely form their own coalition. And of course, 2 is always more powerful than 1. As we look at our beautiful giraffe here at Tembe, what a beautiful sight. We've got giraffe, elephant, and impala all on the same site. Yeah, so just to finish off on the lions, eventually they would become big enough and strong enough to take over their own pride, and then of course have their own progeny and continue their genes mating with another pride. So it's also not entirely uncommon to see some inbreeding in lions. They can tolerate it to a certain degree. We also have some zebras on the scene hiding in the foreground there. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of an insight into the social structure and ecology of lions. Pounce D was asking what keeps them from mating together. Well, as I said, Pounce, not a lot, unless that male is chased away by the dominant male, which is likely to happen as he gets older. As I said earlier, we've already seen his brother being either chased off and even possibly killed by the other male. As I mentioned, it's a tough life for the male lions. So we'll have to wait and see what happens to our young fellow at Tembe. What a beautiful sight we've got going on at Tembe at the moment. Andy FL2 asks, at Tembe, all the holes are getting larger and larger over time. Is it just the elephants or is weather playing a part? Andy, it's a great little bit of insight, and it's actually the way that natural pans are formed in the wild. It's really by these generally larger herbivores who quite enjoy a mud bath. And it starts off with little things like warthog, who like wallowing in the mud in a small little puddle in the ground after some heavy rains. And as the warthog walks off, it removes a little bit of sand, and then larger animals eventually can fit into that little wallow, like buffalo and rhino, who also love to wallow. Eventually elephants, and then of course once things get big enough, you eventually may see some hippos coming into the area. And these animals all play an incredible role in actually significantly influencing the ecosystems around them, and certainly aquatic ecosystems like this one. So yes, the elephants absolutely are playing a part in growing the waterhole over time, along with all the other wallowing animals we see here from time to time. So yeah, very good insight, and that is generally how natural pans are formed here in Africa. Let's see, we've got a few answers to the questions today. OMG 23 on the nose, as usual. I knew I wouldn't slip it past you, OMG. Car and Torse Canterbury reckons 4,000 to 5,000 pounds, and the heaviest around 6,500 pounds. Excellent guess. We'll get to the answer a little later. And then Deborah reckons anywhere between 2 to 7 tons. Well, that's pretty broad range, Deborah, but I'll allow it because I asked you about the average and heaviest. We'll come back to that a little later. And Stephanie reckons also, good question, I have no idea, but around 3,200 pounds for the average bull and 3,800 pounds for the heaviest. I'll let you know in just a little while. Mary Momo's back with us as well, watching this beautiful little zebra having a nurse off of mom. Of course, we've crossed over to town now, as we continue to enjoy these amazing herds, who in turn are enjoying the great grazing available at the moment. I think we should go into our next highlight for you as well, as we see our wildebeest hanging out in the background. Well, slightly different animal, a hartebeest at Comfort's Dam, interested in this flamingo. We thought it was pretty strange behavior watching them almost herd this flamingo. I think it was mainly just they were trying to figure out what on earth it was in the pitch dark. Remember, of course, the camera picks up a lot more light than many of the animals can see. They might have just been inquisitive as to what it was and if the flamingo was potentially any kind of danger, but I think they can see now. They figured out, nah, just the flamingo. Although maybe they just thought it was really beautiful and wanted to get as close a look as possible. It's lovely to see those kinds of animal interactions around on the cameras, and it's one of the special things that we get to enjoy. We really have no impact on the behavior of the animals with the camera, which is sometimes the case when it comes to being out on game drive. Yeah, really fun little clip that we wanted to show you. Mary Momo reckons, I absolutely love the diversity at the Africam sites this year, or this time of year. I've noticed that zebra often seem to herd with giraffe, elephants, etc. This behavior for protection or for numbers or something else. It's a very good point, Mary. We often see herding animals hanging around other herding animals, and it is very simply a case of safety in numbers, and of course having more eyes on lookout. You will often see wildebeest being closely following zebra. They're not as diligent at looking out for prey as zebra are. And of course, the more eyes you have, the better. And not much better eyes out there than a giraffe. Not only do they have an incredible field of view, but they do indeed actually have great eyes themselves. They have incredible rods and cones, rod cells in their eyes that are able to pick up incredible amounts of light during the day. But yeah, the more eyes you have looking out for animals, the better. I agree with you, absolutely. Such wonderful sights on the cameras this time of year. And one that we did want to show you, a little clip that we had from this morning actually, that we thought you'd all be very interested in seeing, is we finally got A nice clip to show you of our Rosie's female leopard. And of course, many of you will know that she had a nasty gash on her hind leg, which we were informed was from a warthog. That particular encounter didn't go so well for her, but you'll see now she is, of course, a beautiful looking cat, and many of you will know that leopard is certainly one of my favorite animals to see on the cameras. But that very nasty looking wound is actually looking really, well, it looks like she's doing really well, and that hind leg, it's her hind right leg if I'm not mistaken, is really healing well, and as you can see she has no signs of injury when she walks. And at the moment in this clip she's just checking her bush Facebook, picking up any sense of any other leopards, females or males that might be around. And there you can see the scent marking, and look at that scar. All the spots almost have been pulled towards it. Just a small little red mark left there. And I don't think it'll be too long before it's gone entirely. So really good news. Many of you were wondering about that, I know. And it is amazing how these animals can heal in the wild. But yeah, lovely to see her doing so well. Unfortunately, we're running out of time on the show today, but before we go, of course, we've got to give you the answer to our question, or our quiz question today. And of course, that question was, what is the average weight of a male elephant? And what is the biggest that male elephants will get to? Well, we've got some great guesses out there. Katiza just sent in a last minute answer at around 5 tons, with the biggest at about 6.5 tons. And Katiza, you are absolutely right. That is pretty much spot on. Most big male elephants will weigh around 5,000 kilograms, with the biggest around 6,500. It was actually, or there are actually a couple of elephants recorded at over 7,000 kilograms. To put that in perspective for you, so for those of you who use pounds, of course, a 6-ton elephant, the conversion for that is around 13,227 pounds. So yes, they are absolutely massive, and often on the camera it doesn't really seem like they are that big, but there's a lot of weight for them to carry around. Let's see our giraffe sneaking through. Okay, single file in the background. What a beautiful sight that is. You can see the sun catching them as well as they walk. So that's it. That is the answer. So well done all of you out there for sending through your guesses. And Stephanie, you thought around 3,000 pounds. Well, now you know. Add a cool 10,000 pounds onto that, and you've got yourself a 6-ton elephant. They are absolutely massive animals. So thanks as always, everyone, for taking part. Always fun to get your input, and hopefully we taught you something new today. And then one more quick question before we head out. UK David, I was talking about camphors. I've seen mention of golden wildebeest there. Are they, or are they being confused with the black wildebeest? David, yeah, I'm not sure. I've never heard of a golden wildebeest. Maybe there is such a thing, but it's certainly nothing I've ever heard of. It is what I have certainly seen there on the cameras a few times is, of course, the black wildebeest. You are very correct in that regard. So maybe just a little bit of confusion there, but it is indeed a black wildebeest. We see mostly blue wildebeest on the other cameras, but at Campers we are lucky enough to see the beautiful black wildebeest. They're not really black, if I'm honest with you. They look more dark brown than black, but from a long way away they look, I guess, a little black, but anyway. Unfortunately, folks, that is all we have time for today. As I said, thanks so much for all your questions and insights and input today. Always fun to chat to you about the bush. Hopefully, if any of you are dreaming of coming to visit us in Africa, well, there's no time like the present. We need all the visitors we can get. These conservation areas just do not survive without tourism. And of course, your interest in spreading the word of the wonderful wild world of Africa. But we'd love to have you come and visit us in person if you ever get the chance. Start saving now. It is the trip of a lifetime. So maybe some of you will be lucky enough to get out here at some point. But until then, stick with us on the cameras. We will be here for you always. And of course, back again same time next week for the show. But in the meantime, you should stick around, watch the beautiful cameras here at Tembe, amazing bird calls in the background, all the incredible animals around. So from all of us here in the Africam team, we're going to leave you with these lovely sights and sounds. And we'll see you all again, same time next week. Cheers for now.